Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us in this masterclass about living independently. And we're going to be focusing on budgeting. How do we have to behave when we're living by ourselves and taking into account our expenses and our income and everything. Well, as always, I'd like to thank you for being here or for sharing this time with us. I'm seeing that some students are joining right now, and well, also thank you for the people who are going to watch this masterclass later on. As always, I try to establish some rules to participate during the session. You know that you have the collaborate chat to interact. If you want to leave some questions while I am explaining something, so that I can pass those questions when we reach an appropriate moment or a topic that is related to your questions. If you want to talk, remember to use this icon to raise your hand, and so that I know that I have to close my microphone and open yours to avoid, noises that can be, interrupting our communication. And well, if we have the time, we will collaborate by using virtual classrooms. But well, since this is going to be more like a master class, perhaps we don't have that much time. But I would like you to send some questions or some ideas or some experiences that we can share with other people watching this conference later. Okay, and then at the end of the session, I will try to have some minutes for questions. And as always, if you have additional questions or inquiries, please feel free to send your request to my email at the university that you can see on the screen right now. Okay, my name is Eva Teba. I have been a professor at the Universidad Camilo José Cela for 15 years now. I am teaching in 3 of its masters. Master on International Education and Bilingualism, Master of Secondary Education, and Master on Neuroscience and Education. And I'm also the Director of Specialist in Cooperative Learning and Multiple Intelligence at the University. That is a full degree, okay? And well, you can see now my webpage in case you want to have a look at the blog and the different conversations we have on education and society, and I will be very happy to see you joining our community. Okay, now my question for you, girls. Have you ever lived alone, far from your parents' house? For what? For a longer period, for a long period, for a short period, for I don't know, stage? Alexia, can you open your microphone and let us know a little bit about your experience? And Beatriz too. Okay. First Alexia and then Beatriz, right?
Okay, I've lived first when I was 12 years old. I did a semester abroad in Ireland. Then when I was 14, I did another semester abroad in England. And then when I was 15, I did a year abroad in the United States.
My God. You have more international experience than me. I've been living in the United States and Finland for a while, but wow, that's impressive. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And what about you, Beatriz? Can you open your microphone?
I did something more or less similar, like a year in Ireland in 6th grade, and then in Cuarto de la ESO, a year in the US, like an exchange year.
Great. And I don't know if Melissa is listening to us and can tell us about any experience similar to this one. Melissa, are you listening to us, or? I don't know. Okay, well. Sorry, while you were living alone on those year programs, what issues worried you the most in this kind of far from house living? What were the issues that worried you the most? We're going to concentrate on budgeting later on, but what about other issues about living by yourself? Anyone?
Do you mean aside from budgeting or in
Yeah,
general?
yeah.
Well, I think the changing culture.
Okay.
I think, yeah, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Maybe like
Yeah. I'm listening to you, girls.
maybe like meeting like new people, like not knowing people where you went to the exchange year.
Okay. Okay. And any of you, did you have to control your budget, or it was more like you were with a family and then your parents would send the money and like the scholar program was paid? Did you have to control anything that has to do with money or not?
No, I only had to like myself. I only had to like control like my own money, but like my parents took charge of it.
Okay. Just for like the small things, right? Or like
Yeah.
going outside, have a dinner out, things like that with new friends, but not too much. Not about housing, groceries, things like that, right?
Yes.
Me either.
Okay.
I had an allowance, but all of the other expenses were like included in my stay. I didn't have to worry about housing or groceries or anything like that.
Okay. Okay. Well, perhaps in the coming years, when you go to study at the university, things are gonna change. My experience was as a postgraduate graduate student. I was studying for a PhD in the United States, and so I had to pay for many of the things that I'm going to include in the conversation today. And yeah, it's a moment in which you're living by yourself and you have to balance all your expenses and your income and to take into account different things. Perhaps some of the cases that I'm going to discuss are not going to be anything that worries you in the coming years if your parents cover most of the expenses. But well, it's good to have them in mind because a degree finishes really fast, and then you'll go for a master's or for a PhD, and then life really goes by. Okay, so about tuition and living expenses when you're living in a university abroad. Just I'd like to recommend you some sources for financial aid for international students. Well, one thing that I have to say is that most of international universities have an international financial aid office. So the first thing that you have to check once you have decided what is the university you wanna apply to. Yeah, one of the things that anyone would advise you to do is to have a look at the Office of Financial Services. Okay, and they're gonna be very helpful. They are gonna give you lots of information. But well, in case of you wanted to start your own online scholarship search, there are two websites that can be very useful. The first one is the ICA organization, the International Education Financial Aid. This one has a searching machine, search feature that allows you to find scholarships around the world, financial aid, scholarships, grants, loans, and then it also helps you to compare the kind of loans that you can get at different universities, and works very well. Actually, it has very updated information. So I would recommend you to have a look at it because sometimes it's surprising the kind of information that you can find. And then the second online web page, the second web page that you can go for is international scholarships. It also delivers a comprehensive list of grants, scholarships, and loan programs, and any other kind of information for international students. So yeah, it can be a good idea if you have already chosen several universities to apply to have a look at these web pages and compare. Okay, I don't know if it's your case. At the very beginning, Alexa mentioned that you're going to study abroad, right?
No, Beatriz.
Ah, okay, Beatriz, sorry. So, where are you going to study? It was the UK, because I think that you mentioned in previous
Yes,
sessions.
the UK.
Okay, in the UK. And where exactly?
In Bristol.
Bristol. Okay. And have you talked to them, to the International Students Financial Office, or tell us a little bit about your experience?
I haven't contacted them. I know like I'm not like the government gives for like European Union students like loans, so you don't have
Yeah.
to pay for your tuition right away. But like the living costs, I will have to like pay it myself. Like I haven't talked to like any internet like the scholarship stuff. I don't know.
Okay. No, it's surprising when I applied. That was a long time ago. When I applied to my American universities, it's surprising how much they care for like high achiever students, and how much they help international students to make their living. So yeah, perhaps you'll find some positive surprises if you contact them. Well, have a look at those two web pages. They are very useful, as I said. And then there are other international organizations that grant for scholarships or other kind of aids. A part of the financial aid that you can get from the universities. Okay, so yeah, other good ideas to have a look at the Fulbright Commission, and then the United Nations has also some resources for students that you can have a look at. And then, well, basically program for apprenticeships. If you are going to work on, I don't know, it depends on the degree you want to study. But yeah, they offer some nice opportunities. They are more for like masters or PhD students, but still, perhaps you can find something that is interesting. Perhaps not for an immediate future, but for the future, for like long-term future. And then I don't know if you were Spanish or if you, well, I guess that Beatriz Vargas with this name, you're Spanish. I don't know, Alexia. But well, there are other organizations that depends on your nationality that can be helpful. There are lots of grants also at Mid East, but basically those are for Middle East and North Africa students. So I don't know if this is your case, if part of your family is from those areas. And then the Open Society Foundations that was previously named the Soros Foundation. It also has some scholarships that can be interesting. Okay, yeah. The only thing that you have to take into account is that many of these organizations require you to be at home when you apply. So look for like scholarships. Plan ahead. Look for them in advance. Okay. So if you're still deciding, Alexia mentioned that she's still deciding. Have a look at all the sources for financial aid way in advance. Okay. Sometimes, sometimes the whole process for looking for financial aid can be it can take a whole year. I remember it took me a long period because you have to prove and to send some information about your family, and it takes a long time. Okay, now let's talk about budgeting, purely. Okay, part of all the information on scholarships and things like that. Okay, I'd like to use like a metaphor that I found in some posts about budgeting for students that I liked a lot. So the metaphor is like your budget is like a leaky bucket, okay? So you have a tap that opens to fill it the bucket, that would be your income. Yeah, budgeting is talking about a bucket that is full of holes, and then the money is leaking all the time. And this has to do with your spending habits. So yeah, definitely I would recommend you to have a serious budget when you are at university to track and control your spending and to think carefully about that. At the very beginning is really useful. After a few months, you can more or less control everything, but then, yeah, to avoid nasty surprises, I would recommend you to have a serious one with an Excel sheet or something like that you can control everything and track how much you can spend a month. So like calculating your student budget is basically following 4 very simple steps. First of all, you have to establish your income and to think about all the financial sources you have and deciding which ones are like more or less coming on a regular basis and which ones would be more inefficient to control because they are just punctual incomes. Okay. Then second step would be estimate your outlines, your expenses. Then I would recommend you to calculate your weekly budget. It's much easier, or every 2 weeks, to have like a shorter calculation. If you calculate on a monthly basis, sometimes you can find unexpected surprises by the 3rd week or so. So I would recommend you to have like a shorter period for which you calculate your expenses and everything. And then I would recommend you to set some goals to save money or to boost your income. Okay, so I'm going to give you some ideas that you can use. Perhaps you can start using them during the summer before you experience university life at the pool. So yes, for the first step, just to establish your income, I would say that typical income streams come from these different sources that I have included. Okay, either maintenance loans that, as you mentioned already, depending on the countries, England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, Germany, and some states in the US, perhaps not so much for international students, but well, they have like these kind of student loans. Okay, and that depends also on the university and on the state the university is. Germany, for example, is one of the countries that grants for nicer loans because you don't have like interest to pay back. So have a look. That depends on the country you're going to study, but have a look at those maintenance loans, okay, and see if you're eligible for some of them. Then, typically for international students, it's getting a scholarship or a grant from the organization, from the particular university. Okay, this is probably one of the most serious income streams that you're going to find. It's different from loans because the case with loans is that you have to pay back, and sometimes the opportunities that you have at the very beginning can be kind of dangerous in the future because you have to give the money back when you haven't already found the proper work, and sometimes it can be kind of tricky. Okay, so much better to get a scholarship or a grant from the university. I can tell you that American universities and US universities are very good at this. Canada used to be, but nowadays they have a shortage in scholarships. So yeah, and then another great opportunity nowadays is Australia. Australia offers very good scholarships. I don't know if Australia is on your scenario, of your future scenario, but Australia has great scholarships nowadays. I'll recommend you a webpage of a company that helps you to plan in advance if you want to study in Australia. Then also, like, the visas for students are very good because they give you opportunities to work in the country, something that sometimes is more rigid in the United States. I don't know if Australia is something that you would consider, that you might consider. Alexia mentioned that it's UK, but what about Beatriz? Would you consider to go to Australia in the future?
I think just the UK.
Okay, so closer in Europe. Okay, well, I'll mention just in case some of the students who watch the conference in the future are interested in having a look. Okay, then back to establishing your income. Then you'll have to take into account, apart of the loans and the scholarship that you get, the money you get from your parents, from your family, salaries that come from part-time jobs, but that depends, as I was saying, that depends on the kind of visa you get. Most of the students' visas would allow you only to work on campus jobs or like private tutoring, things like that, and anything that is really related to education, but not that much. And then, of course, I guess that you'll have in mind your savings, your own savings. Okay, the money you can have for your own expenses. Okay, so when we're talking about scholarships, I want to make a difference between scholarships, regular scholarships, and then other kinds of sponsorships or apprenticeships. Yeah, sometimes depending on the degree you're going to study, you can find what it's called pasantías, yes, apprenticeships. They're also nice. The only problem with them is that when a company sponsors for your studies, normally it takes longer to get the degree because you'll be working at the same time. But sometimes, being Spaniards, for example, and working for like companies that are very interested in Spanish market or in Latin American market can be interesting too. So yeah, perhaps you can look for apprenticeships. As I was saying, the United Nations has lots of information about this too. Okay, and then scholarships. Remember that it's not only for high achievers in academy, but also that there are many universities that give good scholarships on sports skilled people. So yeah, in the U.S., for example, I've seen many scholarships granted to tennis players, to soccer players, and well, other sports. But for tennis and soccer players, there are lots of them. So have a look at this kind of information too. Okay, I don't know if this is your case, if you're very sportive people or not. Are you? Would you consider to apply for these kind of scholarships? Not really. Okay. Okay, then when establishing your income streams, take into account the difference between fixed income and variable or extraordinary income. So I would say that yeah, when you're thinking about how much money you can save or you can spend, the expenses would be calculated on your fixed income. So mainly your scholarship, the monthly money you get from your parents, or the yeah, the kind of jobs that you can have are like fixed. For example, campus salaries, things like that. Okay, and then the variable or extraordinary income. I don't know, things like punctual jobs that you can do. I don't know, something that you do on a weekend or for vacation, or that members of your family send money as a birthday gift, things like that. I would advise to save all this money and have yeah, always have a remaining money and to be able to face unforeseen events. It is very typical when you are at university that you have a problem with your laptop or that you have a problem with your phone screen, things like that. Okay, this is things that well, you'll have to face because these are essential articles for you in your daily life as a student, and sometimes it is really, oh my god, terrible when you don't have like a remaining money for these kind of expenses. Okay, so I would recommend you to establish like a goal a month, like I'm gonna take part of my fixed income to save money for these kind of unforeseen events, and also like all the extraordinary income that you can have. Okay, at least this was a good advice that I got when I was a student, an international student, and it worked for me the 4 years that I spent in the United States. And then with part-time jobs that I mentioned, watch out because depending on the country you're studying, immigration regulations can be very strict with respect to working. while carrying a student visa. So, for example, the USA wouldn't allow you to work that much, only on campus jobs. And those jobs typically do not pay much. You can find things like working on the library to help organize books, or to survey people while they are studying there so that they are not too noisy. You can find jobs such as correcting tasks for TA teachers. For example, I remember that one of the jobs that I got was helping professors that were teaching Spanish as a foreign language to correct some activities and workbooks and things like that. And I got, that was a long time ago, okay? But I got like $75 per month, something like that, okay? So, yeah. Okay, Alexia left because she's having issues with the Wi-Fi connection. Okay. Let's see if now that she's joining out again. Okay, so yeah, that would be something that would help you to supplement to other funding, other income, but don't expect to be paid more than 100 pounds or dollars a month, something like that, no more. Okay, but well, it can be useful for like paying phone bills, things like that. And then, as I was mentioning before, some of the countries are not, immigration regulations are not that strict. For example, in Australia, if you have a student visa, you're allowed to have part-time jobs during weekends and during student vacation. For example, Christmas time, spring break, or fall break, or also during the summer. So yeah, it allows you to work much in a more regular basis than in the United States. Okay, so I would recommend you to, if any of you, the future audience of this masterclass, is thinking about going to Australia, I would recommend you to have a look at this page, Australia Study, because these kind of organizations help you to find information before going there and advise you for free, okay? And would be very helpful in the first weeks you are going to live in another country, in this case in Australia. Okay, so back to the budgeting. I said that first of all you need to calculate your income and to think about like fixed income and variable income. Then the second step would be to estimate your outgoings, to estimate your expenses. Okay, and there are a few recommendations I can give you to figure out where your money is going. Well, first of all, you can have a look at your bank statement to see what were your purchases, your expenses. Or just more simple, if after having lived in the country for a month or so, you can think of the kind of expenditure categories you have and to simply establish a raw estimate on how much you think you would spend, okay? And then after a second or third month, you would be able to adjust it little by little. So typical expenditure categories when you're at university, as you can see, that depends on if you're living on a residential housing at the university and your scholarship is paying for it. But typically, you'll have to think about housing, so everything that has to do with rent and furniture, in case you need to pay for something like that. Transportation, okay, that depends on your just personal situation. But I remember that I had to save to pay for my flight expenses to come back to Spain on summer vacation. So I needed to figure out how to save money during the whole year to be able to pay for my flight expenses at the end of the year. Food, perhaps, health, that depends on the country you are in. Sometimes, yeah, like health insurance can be a serious expense. Personal care in general, entertainment, and then yeah, celebrations and blah blah blah, and then bills. That depends again if you are living by yourself or you are in a residential house. clothing and course materials. Basically, these are the categories that you can think of when estimating your expenses. And then, once you have established all these categories, decide which expenses are essential and which one are not and can wait. Okay, because sometimes the balance when you consider income versus expenses can be destabilizing. Okay, so yeah, I would say that typical essential expenses would be you have to pay a rent, you have to pay for your food, groceries, typical bills, electricity, phone bills, things like that, transportation and course materials and those things. I would consider that those would be like the essential expenses when you're living by yourself. While non-essential expenses can be like nights out, eating out, hobbies such as going to the cinema, to the theater, buying new clothing, gym memberships. Normally, good universities have their own gym that you don't have to pay for, or you can figure out other things, other ways of being fit, keeping fit without paying for a gym membership that can be very expensive when you're living abroad. Haircuts, beauty expenses, things like that. And then, of course, these kind of subscription services that you can also save if you don't use them. Amazon, Netflix, things like that. And then traveling for leisure and any alternative. I would consider that these are non-essential expenses, and depending on the kind of income you can get and how good your scholarship is, or how healthy your income is, that's something that you would have to sort out, okay, and to catch, okay. In my own case, when I was a graduate student, I needed to be very careful with these kind of non-essential expenses because I wouldn't get that much money, and then I was living in a place that was kind of expensive because it was close to New York, and all New York area is really can be very expensive. So yeah, I needed to be very careful about all these expenses, and nothing. I would be thinking all the time about not to get many credit loans because that would end up being a problem. Okay, third step that I would consider is to calculate weekly budget, or at least, I don't know, 2 weeks budget, but I wouldn't go for a month budget. If you establish like in a long-term budgeting, perhaps at the end of the month, you're going to be very short of money, okay? So it's better to budget your expenditure per week or per 2 weeks, okay, rather than per month. To avoid to go overboard at the start of the month and be, as I was saying, be bankrupt by the end of the month and having trouble. And I hated it when I had to ask for help to my family. So yeah, it's better if you can calculate on short periods, okay? And then I remember, this was not my case, but I remember some of my mates, friends, by the time I was living in the United States, that would be having serious problems with credit lines, because when you go in a bank account in any at any bank or savings office, they're going to be offering you many different credit products, okay? But please be very careful with this, okay? I remember a friend of mine who had like 4 different credit cards, and at the end, he was really in trouble, and he had to ask for financial advice and to reorganize all his debt. And well, this is something that, at the very beginning it looks so easy, but at the end it can be really problematic. So if you get a credit line, remember to keep your payments up to date in a planned and controlled way. Include this payment on your budget estimate and your expenses, the ones that we mentioned before, on a regular basis. And I would recommend you not to exceed 10 or 15% of your total fixed income. So the money you get from your families, the part-time jobs that you can, salaries that you can get, and the scholarship. Okay. do not exceed this quantity. This is an advice that all financial officers give you. This is a piece of good advice, okay? For families, the total would be 20%, but that's for families who have like regular salaries and things like that. So never exceed this quantity that I am indicating. And then, as a final advice, I would tell you to set yourself some goals, either to reduce your spending or save money, or to boost your income. Okay, saving money, that depends on your expending basis. Okay, and the kind of needs that you may have. But there are other nice ways to get some extra cash and to increase your income. And nowadays, students have found several popular ways to get some extra money. One idea is to fill in online surveys. There are offices that pay nice money, okay? And I would recommend you to have a look at this post that I include the link, because there are some companies that offer up to $5 per survey. Okay, if you fulfill a series of requirements, that depends on your age, on your consumerism, the kind of products you consume and that you can taste and things like that. And then there are other pages that ask for comments on different products that are going to be released. And one of the ones that pay more is Toluna influencers. Have a look at it because it's very nice. I mean, it is not that you're going to get paid tons of cash, okay? But sometimes, yeah, if you are getting short of income at the end of the month, those can be nice ideas to have some extra cash. Okay, and well, that was all the advice that I had for you. I don't know if you have questions at this point, because I couldn't figure out many other ways to control budget, but perhaps you have other questions that might be helpful.
The only question I have is like, what platform or like tool do you think it's better to like keep track of your expenses? Like, should we use like a notebook or like an Excel, or is there an app?
I was using an Excel sheet just to figure out my fixed income and then the expenses, so that I could keep track on a daily basis, basically, how much money I have spent at this point. But the first month, it's difficult to figure out because it depends a lot on the kind of social life you have and things like that. So I remember that the first month I was very optimistic, and then I needed to adjust my Excel sheet in the next few months. Okay, but I would say that after the first term or so, you know more or less how much you can expend, and you adjust very well. There can be also, like, I remember nasty surprises that I couldn't figure out. For example, when I went to the United States, I found out the first month that I had to pay for some extra secretary expenses that the university was asking me to pay, and that was something like $1,000 or something like that. So even if I had some savings, I remember myself being in trouble on the first month. So make sure about all the initial expenses that you have to cover, okay? Because sometimes you only think about the enrollment, but then there are other expenses that university can ask you to fulfill. And then also about health insurance, okay? Because sometimes, that can be really a pain in the neck. Insurances can be very, very expensive. And also, I would recommend you not to think about having a car in the first few months if you're thinking about something like that, because car expenses can be also terrible. In the United States, oh my God, it was more expensive to keep a car insurance month per month than buying an old car or a second-hand car. So I wouldn't think about this kind of expenses at the very beginning. at least before you get used to see how much you can expand and how much money you can make out of those, campus jobs that I was mentioning, things like that. But be very careful the first term to avoid nasty surprises. But yeah, definitely using an Excel sheet can help you a lot to keep track of on a daily basis, basically.
I don't think I have any more questions.
Okay. And what about you, Beatriz? Oh, that was Alexia. I don't know because Alexia was having problems with the.
Yeah, she her internet isn't working.
Okay. So that was you, Beatriz. Sorry. Okay. So well, I hope this bunch of advice was useful for you. And as I say, it always depends so much on the kind of situation you're engaging, the kind of the country you are living in, how much scholarship you can get. But yeah, I guess that some of the links that I offered are going to be useful for you during the summer while you figure out the kind of university you're going to attend in. And well, this is going to be my last session in this Aula Bienestar y Orientación. So just to say thank you to all of you who have been entering the sessions every day. That was really nice. And I hope that you found it helpful. Okay? So thank you on the part of Universidad Camilo José Cela.
Yes, thank you so much for giving the talk, the masterclass.
Okay, and good luck with anything that you push in the future. Okay?
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.